quickly. This is a meeting of the Active Transportation Advisory Committee. Just to remind you, this is being, there is video and audio which is being live streamed and recorded for this meeting. First item on the agenda is a call to order, and we need a roll call. So I'm asking members to introduce yourselves so that the clerk can check that your camera and audio are working. Incidentally, the clerk today is Krista Vining, and I believe she will be our assistant going forward. So perhaps I can just go through the list and see who is here. I have regrets from Councillor Becky Kent and Miles McCormick. Were there any others, Krista?
No, Mr. Chair, not on my end.
Okay. So Ashley Boers, are you here?
I am present. Thank you.
Hello, Ashley. Hi. Paul Berry.
Yes, I'm here as well.
Hi,
Paul
Paul.
Berry with the Halifax Regional Trails Association.
Hi, Paul. Andrew Taylor.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, Andrew.
Right.
Milena Casanavicius.
You're getting better and better at that, Mr. Chair. I am here.
Thank you, Milena.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Pugh.
Yeah.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Yes, I'm here. Thanks.
Hi. Peter Zimmer.
Here, yes.
Hello, Peter. Alison Carlisle.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Alison. Mohammed Ehsan. You there, Mohammed? Okay, not yet. Douglas Wetmore, our Vice Chairperson. Douglas? No? And then myself as Chair.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I believe, Mr. Chair, it's Milena. I believe Douglas had sent his regrets earlier on.
Okay, I guess I missed that. Thank you, Milena.
Yep.
Okay, we also are expecting staff members, David McIsaac. Are you here, David? Not yet. And Emma Martin.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Hello, David. And Emma Martin will be making a presentation. Is Emma here?
Yep, I'm here.
Hello, Emma. Very good. That's Emma. Okay. We are going forward. We're going to make a land acknowledgement, which is usual now for most HRM committees. So we would like to acknowledge that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. Okay, item 2 is approval of the minutes which were circulated to you. Are there any errors or omissions that anyone detected? Hearing none, I'm calling for a motion to approve the minutes.
So move. Peterzimmer.
Okay, thank you. And we need a seconder as well.
Milena can second.
Thank you, Milena. So I will call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And are there any opposed? If so, say nay. Okay, no opposed. So we have moved to approve the minutes from last time. And we move on to item 3 in the agenda, which is approval of the order of business. So I'll ask the clerk, are there any additions or deletions to the order of business that was circulated?
There are no additions or deletions, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
And then do we have someone who wishes to move approval of the agenda?
I'll move approval of the agenda. Paul Berry.
Paul Berry, okay. And we need a seconder again for that.
Milena can second.
Thank you, Milena. Again, all those in favor of approving the order of business, say aye.
Aye.
Any more? And any opposed, say nay. Okay, hearing none, that is approved unanimously. We will proceed with the order of business in the agenda. Item 4 is business arising out of the minutes, and we have no business arising out of the minutes, so that's easy. Number 5, item 5, is a call for declaration of conflicts of interest. If there are any committee members that feel they have a conflict of interest to declare, now is the time to do so. This was with regard to agenda items. Okay, I hear none, so we can proceed to item 6, deferred business. We have no deferred business, so that's item 6. Item 7 is correspondence, petitions, and delegations. So with regard to correspondence, I'll ask Krista, has there been any correspondence received through the clerk's office?
There's actually been no correspondence received.
Okay, other than, I guess, the stewardship proposal from Paul Berry, correct?
Yeah, we've circulated that as a handout under that particular item.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, and petitions, again, I'll ask you, have there been any petitions received?
There are no petitions received, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And have any committee members received petitions they wish to bring forward? No, very good. So now we can move on to, well, there are no presentations other than a report under item 8. So we'll move on to item 8, which is reports, discussion, and updates. Although I don't have it in the agenda here, I'm wondering if David McIsaac has anything to report from the supervisor's point of view. David? David McIsaac.
Hi, sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm just, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can see and hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
So is this, you're asking for the staff report, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, we have Emma down to give the update on the Active Transportation Grant Program, but do you also have anything to report?
Well, I guess I'll just give you a high-level overview of the work right now, maybe that's happening in the AT group, and some highlights generally in HRM.
Okay.
So I'll just list maybe some of the planning projects that we have currently underway. Working in Dartmouth North on a functional plan there. We will be doing some public engagement, we hope, as restrictions ease up. Positive signs there for our Africville project and for our East Preston Active Transportation project. We are also just about to start restarting our Midtown Bikeways planning project. We are on the verge of hiring a consultant to get that one going again. And just finishing up some work in North Preston and Lucasville on some functional plans there. So there's a few others on the go, but those are some of the busier projects right now. On the design side, working with our engineering colleagues, we are working hard to get the Halifax side of the McDonald Bridge Bikeway Connectors project ready for, in a position that we can tender it for construction next year. We're working on a new accessible access point to the Sackville Greenway in Lower Sackville, and also just starting design work on Almond Street AAA Bikeway, which again is a project that we hope is in the position to build for next construction season 2022. On the education and promotion side of things, we are still on, I think we're on our third phase of the Get There by Bike campaign. So that is, and that will be the last one. So that'll be kind of our first larger promotional campaign that we've done. And we'll learn from that and hopefully do something, build on that for next year. Emma's going to talk to you a bit about our education and promotion grant program, among other things, so I won't give her any more information on that. And again, just to let folks know, we're a little bit more on top of updating our web pages than we have in the past, and we're working right now on some of our pages related to walking infrastructure, walking programs, and hope to have some more information up on that shortly. And again, very open for feedback from the group on how we communicate to the public about active transportation on our webpage. Just a few projects under construction right now. Wise Road on the Dartmouth side of the McDonald Bridge is, I'm told, construction starting. I haven't seen it, but so that'll be ongoing for the next few months at least. A new safer crossing for walk pedestrians and bicyclists at Oxford at Allen and Oak is under construction right now. The Lehman segment of the North End Local Street Bikeway up by the Community College, north end of the peninsula, is under construction. And we'll start construction on the Dahlia Oak Local Street Bikeway. It'll probably be another month. That one is just going to tender now. So there's just a couple other things. I was just in a meeting today. We will be doing slow streets again. I think it's a different group that leads that, but that work is proceeding and should start to be seeing some of those implemented soon, as well as some tactical bike lanes through the Cogswell interchange on Devonshire, and I think potentially on Bell Road as well.
Okay. Well, that's quite a lot of things happening. I can see that, and I guess that's partly related to the fact that we're into the construction season right now.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly I'll just quickly go through the speaking list and see if anyone wishes to ask you questions on that report. So Mohammed Ehsan, did Mohammed join us? Mohammed? No? Alison Carlisle?
No questions.
Okay, Alison. I'm just going to quickly go through these. Peterzimmer? No? Elizabeth Pugh?
No questions, but perhaps once we've gone through this list, I actually have an update on a Department of Transportation project that might be of interest to this group.
Sure. Okay. Shortly. Milena Kasanovicis.
Yeah, I just have two quick questions. I feel kind of silly, David. Where do I find the stuff on the walking portion you mentioned?
It's not there yet. I was looking at a draft of it on off the web just this morning. So I'll let the group know when that gets posted, and would be interested in what you think. Right now, when you go to the active transportation page on the HRM website, it's very bike heavy, and so we want to put a bit more information there on what we're doing to make it safer and more accessible for people walking.
And strolling and dancing.
And strolling and rolling and living their best lives.
Right.
On the sidewalk.
Great.
And on the mop.
Thank you. And my second question is, can you just repeat what you said about Allen and Oak and Oxford?
Sure. So the north-south street is Oxford, and the east-west is Allen, and then it becomes Oak Street on the west side of Oxford Street.
Yeah.
And right now to cross there, I think it's a push button RA5, and it's going to become what we call a half signal. So when pedestrians or bikes kind of hit the signal, the cars will get a red ball and stop there. And there's some bump outs as part of it as well. So, and there's also, I believe, cars will no longer be able to drive straight through that intersection. They'll have to turn. So it's a way to help manage shortcutting as well through those neighborhoods, and to kind of help enhance that as a local street bikeway corridor, east-west through that area.
Yeah, and this is my neighborhood. I'm familiar with that crossing there, kind of jig jogs.
Yeah.
Is that so? So the bump out, will there be any like on an accessible pedestrian signal that somebody who cannot see can actually locate that button? Because they're kind of difficult to locate.
I don't know all those details. So, you know what, I can get some more information and come back to the committee next month, or maybe even just follow up with you directly, Milena. Would that be okay?
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks.
Okay. Andrew Taylor, do you have any questions or concerns? No? Paul Berry? Okay, Paul Berry?
Nothing for me. Thank you, Hugh.
Okay, Paul. Ashley Bowes?
No, nothing for me, thanks.
Okay. And did Douglas Wetmore join us, or is he definitely not here? I guess he's not here. And for myself, I don't have any questions at this time. So maybe we can thank David for his update, but you mentioned, Elizabeth, that you had something to inform us with.
Yes.
Go ahead.
One of the projects the Department of Transportation is working on is the connector road between the Aerotech Business Park through to Trunk 2, which is within HRM. And as part of that project, we're doing a multi-purpose path beside the connector road. This will be part of the Blue Route network, so it'll connect the airport through to Trunk 2. And I guess wanted to let people know that this is going to be, we've got the design plans for that almost finished now, and it'll probably be going to tender in the next month or so. I know that our August meeting often doesn't happen, so I just thought I'd let people know that, because probably if it is to not happen, by September, it'll be out there in the public realm. So I just thought people might like to know that you should be seeing that soon.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, well, we're still with staff, actually, and the next item, where are we? The next item is Emma Martin's presentation. So Emma, you have a presentation on the Active Transportation Grant Program, is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Does everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me to present an update on the Active Transportation Grants Program. It might have a bit of lagging, so I hope you're patient. Today, I'd like to present to you a summary of new directions for HRM to support the community associations, and also present the active transportation grants awarded so far for 2021-2022 fiscal year. As you have been aware of for a while now, the Regional Council adopted the Administrative Order 2020-011-ADM, which sets the framework for awarding active transportation grants programs and recreational trails grants programs. and also endorsed 8 proposed updates and approaches to municipalities' ongoing development and promotion of active transportation facilities and recreational trails in HRM, including the collaboration with community associations and other key stakeholders. So what are the implications of the new administrative order? In terms of the grant program administration, the administrative order sets the framework and directs staff to accept applications, determine eligibility, evaluate and award grants, and HRM staff, TPW in the case of the active transportation grants, and Parks and Recreation staff in the case of recreational trails grants are administering the grant. In terms of funding eligibility, the recipients who can receive grants for active transportation need to have a broad and diverse mandate and bylaws who are supporting the HRM's objectives for walking, cycling, and accessibility. They need to have a general membership that is broadly representing the community. The composition in the board and the members at large should feel encouraged to and able to promote walking and bicycling, and they can bring issues related to walking and bicycling in their board meetings. And the projects that are proposed should have been result or should be supported by local community engagements, especially in the cases of capital and recapitalization projects. The eligible recipients, unlike in the past, they do not have to be members of the Halifax Regional Trails Association. We have identified that the active transportation grants program has broadened its scope, and there are more organizations in HRM, not-for-profit, who have a mandate for walking and cycling and other active transportation forms, who are not necessarily members in Halifax Regional Trails Association and might not be able to become members because they do not have a trail that they are maintaining or developing with a letter of authority or a license agreement. And those are mostly those who would be applying to education and promotional grants. In terms of project eligibility criteria, as I mentioned, the funding for capital and maintenance is solely dedicated to developing, maintaining the HRM 80 network, and that is posted on the website for all the applicants to review, and either located on HRM or on provincial corridors or on other lands that have public easements. In the case of those corridors that are not on HRM land, the HRM will contribute matching funding at a 50% leverage funding, and will also emphasize on proper management plans that are in place to reduce ATV damage if ATVs are present on the corridors on provincial crown land. So the AT grants program, typically we see applications between $250,000 to $1 million. Are composed of 5 streams. The AT capital grants is for planning, designing, construction of new corridors that are included and envisioned in the AT priorities plan and in the IMP. And those are to assist community associations who have land agreements on those corridors to be able to implement their projects. The AT Recapitalization Grant also is to assist the community groups who are currently having a letter of authority or a license agreement to operate the corridors, and those corridors are at a stage where the maintenance is no longer viable. So a major recapitalization is requested. We are also supporting engineering studies and engineering redesigning and tendering packages, and the mandatory structural inspections that are needed to support the infrastructure on the trails. And we're also looking at projects that would help upgrade the multi-use pathways to become more accessible to users of all abilities. The maintenance and operation is awarded to assist with maintaining the trails at a standard that is accessible, that is safe and convenient for all trail users. The education and promotion grant is a new stream. It has evolved from the Bike Week funding program, and we have identified that there is opportunity year-round for projects that are educational and promotional in nature, and that year-round activities will be more effective to achieve our objectives. So they are awarded for projects such as safety programs, training programs, and you will see when I talk about what type of projects were awarded that the projects awarded are very broad in scope. Emergency repairs grants is also a new stream, and it was implemented to support community groups who are maintaining trails who have been impacted by weather-related events or have had failure of infrastructure or vandalism, and they need funds sooner than when the new applications are due for the following fiscal year, and where funds are needed to maintain the trail at a safety standard, and we cannot wait for the funding from the other streams. So I'm going to start presenting each of the streams grants that were awarded for 21-2022. Atlantic View Trail Association has proposed the trail concept connecting the Atlantic View Trail near the Lawrencetown Beach to the McDonald House, and they were awarded $11,000 on a project cost of $22,000. The Sackville Lakes Parks and Trails Association are working to develop a connection from the junction of the Sackville Lakes Park Trailhead and Great Trail Oak to the junction of Cobequid Road and Lakeside Road. They are just in the phase of finishing their detailed design, and they have been awarded in 2020-2021 to do detailed design, and for 21-2022 they will be they have been awarded to start the base clearing and preparation for construction in the following fiscal year. The Sackville River Association has been working on the Sackville Greenway for a few years. Their vision for the next fiscal year is to start their functional plan to connect Falls House Museum to the Sackville Crossroad, and then to the old Sackville Road. So they have their Sackville Greenway is divided in on various sections, and some of them are fully completed, and some of them are just at the concept stage. So now they're moving into accomplishing the other sections that are envisioned. And they have been awarded $25,000. The recapitalization grants for this coming year are proposed in BLT, Rails to Trails. Last year, they had a major culvert failure at the Cranberry Lake, and they have built a bridge to replace the culvert at the request of the Department of Environment. And so due to construction, the corridor has deteriorated within those in the area, and also because of high volumes of traffic from all users and the ATVs, they need to reinstate their corridor within 4 kilometers between kilometer 5 and 9. And they have been awarded $17,500 on a $34,500 project cost. The Coral Harbor Park and Trails Association has been working on their causeway for the past, say, 3 years, and this is their last 15% of the causeway work to re-rock and reinforce the causeway, so it is more resistant to the washouts that are experienced there during weather events. They also have an embankment project at the base of the causeway to reinforce the connection with the land. And they're also looking at restating their signage because it's cluttered and very diverse, and it confuses users. So they identified the need to make it consistent and provide clarity to users. The Muscatatuck Trailway Association, following their basic inspections of every 5 years, they determined that the truss bridge needs recapitalization, and they are embarking on a more detailed engineering study to determine how the bridge can be recapitalized so it is not deteriorating further. The Seda Trail Society, they completed the Gatesboro Greenway, and you saw a beautiful picture at the beginning of my slides. During the project, they identified one of their culverts that is a water passage that is very deteriorated and could not be fixed, so it needs to be replaced. So they have been requested by the Department of Environment to determine a replacement plan and an engineering study. So they will be hiring engineering services to replace and determine what are the plans for these culverts. In terms of maintenance and operations, those tend to be recurring applications, and we are trying our best to be able to fund them at the value that is requested. So this year we were actually able to fund the 100% of the request of those community trail associations that are maintaining the active transportation facilities. In terms of AT education and promotion grants, we have 2 intakes, one for events that typically occur in the spring, summer, and early fall. and we have another intake coming up in the fall for late fall, winter, and early spring events. The Cole Harbour Parks and Trails Association is launching a stewardship program. They have identified that safety and good experience comes with promotion and having informal open houses and pop-up events. So they have requested 1,040 to be able to promote their events and to promote the 3 corridors that they are maintaining. The Dalhousie Office of Sustainability is proposing a project that is aiming, communicating, and encouraging active transportation options to groups who are not traditionally represented in the space. And they will be hosting safe cycling workshops. The Ecology Action Center has proposed 3 projects, and they are all very diverse. Easy Ride is to encourage the transportation with electrical bikes versus single vehicle occupants for those who are commuting to work. And they will be engaging with workplaces to have pilots to encourage the electric bicycles usage. They will provide the electrical bikes and determine their journey and promote their journey to public. So they will be tracking data that's resulted from the project and encouraging workplaces to take on the program themselves. Making Tracks is a program that is developed in the school system, and they will be identifying champions in each schools that will be trained, that can in turn train school kids on how to bike, how to be safe on the bike, and how to pick up biking to go to school and to their friends. Community Cycling Activation Program is a program elevated from the Pop-Up Bike Week. It's still focused around it. It's aiming at teaching users on safety skills, and it's a combined program with skills on repairing their bikes, but also skills on how to safely cycle. The Friends of First Lake are also looking at starting a stewardship program. They will be printing educational records and distributing them along the trail, and also within their community, and also organize in partnership with the Sackville High School Community Cleanup Day to encourage their students and staff to become stewards of the trail and of the lake itself. The Halifax Cycling Coalition have proposed the Urban Cycling 101 course, which is a combination of online and hands-on practical course dedicated to teaching skills on how to cycle in an urban setting. And they will be doing also rides on various urban AT corridors. The Maritime Race Weekend Association has proposed the Summer Warriors, which is a project that aims at getting people more active, choosing walking, running, and biking to commute within the community and recreate versus taking their car or versus using their vehicles. And they will be encouraging through challenges and pre-event survey and post-event survey. They'll be encouraging participants to shift their thinking and mode of transportation, and determining whether recreational walking and biking can become also utilitarian. So they'll be having challenges such as walk to the post office or to the grocery or to a museum, take pictures and submit them, and they will be giving them gifts. But the $2,500 are for promotional efforts, not for the gifts. SAPAT Trail Society is also proposing a stewardship program. As I mentioned, they just finished building the Gatesbrook Greenway. It's a new facility in the community. Some people are not aware of it yet, so they will be developing promotional brochures to promote the corridor in the Porters Lake area and surrounding communities in the Eastern Shore. And they want to increase participation in volunteering and promote the value of active living through active transportation. The Walk and Roll Safety Halifax Association has proposed a project to provide training to the individuals responsible for planning, design, and implementing temporary signs. We are working with Walk and Roll to determine how we can better support their project beyond funding, just because this type of training is working through a certification process. So it would be more effective if it's part of the certification process as a training program. The Women Addressing Violence on the Eastern Shore, they're proposing walking and promoting walking on the Gatesbrook Greenway and develop safe practices and comfort in using the trail, and supporting increased active transportation in the community. And they haven't been awarded yet because of the COVID regulations and restrictions. They want to hold off until those are easing and they'll be allowed to walk as a group. So they have been approved but not yet awarded. So what else beyond the grants programs? We are working with other funders, such as the provincial government and the GCT, to reduce red tape associated with the programs, the administrative burden, and work towards a one-stop shop, as we have been requested during the engagement with the trail associations. We are working with the provincial government to support the sustainability of the active transportation facilities beyond funding. We have been collaborating with them on the Shearwater Flyer consultation at the request of the Cole Harbour Parks and Trails Association to determine future users allowed on the corridor. We are working with the province to determine what roles and responsibility HRM should have on rails to trails corridors, and we're expected to provide a report to the regional council. And we have started discussions to determine how we can provide sustainability to the Blueberry Run. We have changed terms and conditions to ease the administrative burden of trail associations trying to hire contracts. So we have reduced the threshold where we are recommending tenders, and those are about 5,000 now. In the past, it was above 1,000. We are no longer signing agreements for projects under 5,000. Just we are notifying and we're sending letters of award notification letters, and the maintenance grants payment are at 100% for grants under 5,000 and at 70% over 5,000. So that should alleviate the financial risk of those groups who are not able to pay their invoices up front and then get reimbursed. So they will have the ability to pay their contractors in time. We also have determined opportunities for HRM technical staff to mentor and coach volunteers on projects, and we are providing funds for specialized volunteering training through the Education and Promotion Grants. And we are launching the trail monitoring counting project soon, where Trail Association will have the opportunity to loan counting equipment so they can determine the usage on the trail, and will be supporting stewardship programs and safety. We're supporting the association meeting their letter of authority in case of emergency, as we mentioned, through the emergency repairs grants. And we're looking at realigning the volunteers' roles and responsibility with capacity and capability by providing them opportunities that are meaningful to the supporters groups. And supporters groups are those who are collaborating with HRM on HRM land to promote AT facilities and to volunteer on HRM facilities. Some of you might be interested in the Recreational Trails grants awarded, so I didn't want to leave it out. The HRM, through the administrative order and through the Recreational Trails grants program, will prioritize projects proposed on HRM owned land first and will fund them at 100%. However, maintenance and operation grants will be continued for those provincial parks that are connected to HRM owned land. So parks, AT facilities, HRM owned land, recreational destinations. There have been 3 projects, capital projects awarded this year. McIntosh Run Watershed Association is renowned for their single track trails in the McIntosh area for mountain biking, and they have been awarded $50,000 to continue their connections. Friends of First Lake Society is constructing approximately 1.3 kilometers of trail in around the First Lake. And they are now at the second phase of their, trail extension project. Penhorn Lake Area Trails Association is constructing as well at 100 meters of recreational trail around the Penhorn Lake, and they will complete a loop around the lake. It's a very attractive site, and the residents have been for a long time interested in this loop. So the Penhorn Lake Area Trails Association will receive $90,000 towards the construction. Recreational trail maintenance and operations grants. As I mentioned, all those trail associations who maintain recreational trails that are adjacent to existing active transportation facility or on HRM land, or adjacent to a recreational destination that's owned by HRM, are receiving awards to maintain and operate the facilities, but also to support some of their organizational expenses. And so those are the awards, and a total of over 36,700 have been awarded for 2021, 2022. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please, and if you'd like to contact either myself or David, I have provided you our email address.
Thank you very much, Emma. That's very informative and probably news to some of us that there are so many programs available. I'm going to ask if people have questions or comments. I'll take the speaking list in reverse order. So starting with Ashley Boas, do you have questions or comments?
No, not at this time. Thanks.
Okay. Paul Berry?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. So Emma, when you were talking about the AT maintenance amounts, you indicated that 100% of the requests were granted. For some of those rails to trails, they're on Crown land, and in the past, the city would only fund a certain proportion of the maintenance costs. So has that policy changed, or do you just mean that they got 100% of their city allotment?
So they were awarded 100% of what they requested from HRM. However, those amounts represented 50% of their project total cost.
Okay.
So at least 50%. So for instance, if Cold Harbor Parks and Trails Association received 11,960, their project cost would have been at least 23,000 or 24,000.
Perfect. That's how I understood it was to work. So I was
we,
a little confused about the
100%.
Excellent. My other question.
So we matched at 50% their total project cost.
My other question is about the educational grants and stuff. I know on the maintenance and on the capital grants that you provide, there is some reporting required in terms of, especially if there's contractor services, we need to provide, paid receipts and things like that and report back on a template. Are there any performance measurement or reporting requirements in regard to the educational grants?
Yes, there are. So the education and promotion grants are expected to provide a budget with their application. They are expected, if they are below 5,000, they're expected to have a final report and a final budget and all their invoices and receipts provided to us. And if they're above $5,000 and they have a contribution agreement, they're also expected to have an interim report. The final report includes outcome assessment as well. So not unlike the maintenance operations and capital grants, where the outcomes are the actual maintenance projects and the facilities on the ground. For the AT education and promotions, we're actually requesting outcomes from participation and whether they met the objectives of the project.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It was a great presentation, very thorough, as you always are. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, moving on. Andrew Taylor, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just time, Chair.
Okay. Milena?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Emma, it's Milena Kazanavichus and Guide Dog Lewis. I just, hi. First and foremost, I think this is a fantastic endeavor. and probably long overdue. But I'm a little bit perhaps ignorant. During COVID, HRM has been screaming and hollering that revenues have been not coming in due to loss because of COVID, so on and so forth. So where actually is this money coming from that you're handing out? Which I think is phenomenal, but I'm just curious, is there a little golden leprechaun somewhere?
No, those funds have been approved by the regional council in the capital budget, and they are approved because they are part of the active transportation priorities plan. So some of those corridors in the active transportation priorities plan are directly implemented and constructed by HRM. However, some of the corridors identified in the active transportation priorities plan are owned by the provincial government, and they are on a letter of authority to trail associations. So we are working with those trail association groups by providing them grants to plan and design and construct those corridors. So that's another way that HRM is collaborating with trail associations to implement HRM objectives.
Okay.
And the, yeah, go ahead, David.
Oh, sorry, I'm going to interrupt, Mr. Chair. I was just going to kind of comment that we're actually, our capital and recapital grants this year is lower than they typically are in a year. And that's really just because that's what was received. We had a bit more money set aside in the budget for that. Yeah, so that's just a situation. And one other thing, we kind of, basically we have the active transportation capital budget this year is about 3 million. Next year it's going to be about 3.3 million, and the year after that it's going to be about 3 million. And it was, that's very much a status quo and maybe a bit of a decline from previous years. And part of the reason that it's low is I think because of those sort of factors you were alluding to earlier, sort of the identified need to be a little bit careful with our budgeting. However, we made sure that even under those circumstances that we kept this funding for supporting the community associations and I would do my other little comment is a lot of those grant amounts are actually pretty small, and I think HRM derives a lot of value out of those. So it's, overall, it's a great investment, if you want to use that word. And it's good to see it being used because we just kind of created it this year. So great to see the education and promotion grants coming through, and we'll have another round this fall for those. And we do have some money set aside to cover those as well. So hoping to see some continue to support that work.
Right. So basically, you do have a little leprechaun sitting back there somewhere. No, I think this is great, and I hope there's a little bit more promotion for other because I mean Emma, and thank you, Krista, by the way, for sending me a PDF I can read, and I've read through all the individual, very diverse grants that were handed out, which is I mean absolutely phenomenal. So this is great. Keep up the good work.
Very good.
End of thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Milena. Elizabeth Pugh, do you have comments or questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, and Peterzimmer?
Yeah, overall, very impressive. I hate acronyms. 3 letters. I'm new to this board, new to some parts of the provincial bureaucracy. There was one saying, oh, funding from the province and comma. My memory says something like TCP, or
I'm sorry.
It's just that
TCT,
I know they type easily. I use some myself. I try and catch myself. Please minimize them. HRM I can stand. I'd prefer Halifax, but
I apologize.
no, you know, this is a communications issue that I think goes throughout throughout the city government, throughout the provincial and federal governments. They are people who are talking to each other and they think they know who they're talking to, but when they're addressing general citizens, they sometimes skate over important details. I would have loved to have seen an addendum that gave some maps where all these trails and events are going. You know, my visualization, I don't know the names of the trails. I don't even know all of the communities in Halifax and where they are. It would be lovely, whether it's a hyperlink to a set of maps, and the same goes for the groups. You know, I don't know who these trail associations are. I don't know how many people are involved,
There is a
how long they've been running.
hyperlink.
And then that kind of background information, I think, is important to anybody who's naively reading these reports. They won't all get to them, but it would be lovely to have that kind of background facility available. It's a wonderful report. It's a delight to see how much the city is doing. And I'm not putting you down, not putting anybody down. I'm just saying, as I often do, it would be nice if it were better.
Excuse me, if I can just butt in. Emma, I think the Halifax Regional Trails Association perhaps has a site with maps. Is that correct?
Do you see my screen?
I'm sorry?
I was asking if everybody sees my screen right now. If everybody sees my map.
Not yet.
No?
No.
Okay, just 1 second.
David here. We could, you know, probably pretty easily send some additional information around to the group after this as well.
Yeah.
With the map and.
Everybody sees my screen?
Yeah.
Well, we see
the map?
Yes, we see a screen,
Okay.
but
No, it's not the map. Don't worry about it, Emma. We'll send something around afterward.
Okay.
yeah, that sounds good.
All right,
And
so the presentation has, do you see my presentation? No?
Yeah, we did see the presentation.
Okay. Okay, so the page 4 has at the bottom a hyperlink of HRM AT network that will, if you will be able to access your electronic copy and you
Right.
click on it, it will take you to the map that outlines all the trail facilities that I mentioned that have been receiving funding.
Okay, great.
Okay, and I
Okay.
apologize, TCT stands for Trans-Canada Trail.
Okay.
okay, Emma. So so we'll hope to get some further information sent to the members of the group of the committee. And I'm not sure if you've already sent the presentation that you just gave. I don't think you did. So we'd like that to be sent to people as well. Okay.
Mr. Chair, a copy was provided to the members with the rest of their agenda package.
Okay, thank you, Krista. So Peter, thank you. Alison Carlisle, do you have any comments or questions?
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Alison. And Mohammed Ehsan, did Mohammed join us?
No.
I guess he didn't. Okay, so just a question actually from myself. For a long time, I was a member of HRTA because of a trail group that I'm part of. And I haven't been involved for a few years because the trail I'm involved with is on HRM parkland. And my understanding from Emma's talk is that basically the grants that you've been looking at are for groups working on provincial land or other land that is not HRM owned. Is that correct, Emma?
No, they are for, are you in a group that is maintaining a recreational trail
No, no.
on HRM land?
Ours is an active transport trail on HRM parkland. And it's been taken over as a direct delivery by HRM. And I think, I understand that's now the general policy. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry to
David?
interrupt.
David?
I was going to say, typically, yes, Hugh, and probably the grant that's most sort of relevant to a group like yours that doesn't have those legal or license agreement or letter of authority obligations is like the education and promotion grant. And then Emma, there's only one bullet also in the presentation of sort of those sort of like services. So, you know, we're going to have a new employee who's going to kind of try to work with some of the community associations who either support facilities, which would be kind of, I think, what the Portland Hills group does, or who actually have operational responsibility and do some kind of networking and some potentially learning and capacity building work with them this fall and next winter. So I think, you know, there are a few groups that might not have fit quite into the HARTA model that might be interested in sort of becoming a bit more part of a network with some of the programs and services that we're going to have going forward. Okay,
that's good news. I'll wait to get more news on that, I guess, later on. Thank you. So that concludes our presentation on the Active Transportation Grants Program. And we now move on to item 8.2.2. Paul Berry has a presentation on a proposed community-based wilderness stewardship initiative as it relates to active transportation. So Paul, are you ready to present?
Yes, I am. I don't have any slides or anything like that. I'm just going to speak to people. And I just wanted, maybe before I get going too, I'd be happy to run through the groups that are part of Halifax Regional Trails Association for people's edification, because just about, I'd say 90% of the money that was given out under the AT and Recreational Grants Program has gone to Halifax Regional Trails Association representatives and stuff like that. So I'm happy to do that in the future. But I was, just before I get started too, I was just going to say I'm enthused by the active transportation's support of stewardship. I knew that the Halifax Northwest Trails Association, which manages trails, which are mostly direct delivery near the mainland commons and everything like that, had commenced a stewardship program. But it was great to hear that the Cole Harbour Parks has started one, the Friends of First Lake have started one, the SATA has started one, and that the city supports, the Active Transportation Group supports that endeavor. I don't know if the Bluff Wilderness Hiking Trail, of which I'm the chair of the group that has the letter of authority, it's actually called a management agreement with Nova Scotia Environment, kind of commenced that. I think we're probably the first ones that started the stewardship programs in the Halifax region, although stewardship and the ideas of stewardship have existed for millennia, probably. So maybe just to introduce myself again, I'm Paul Berry. I'm the representative of Halifax Regional Trails Association, and I'm also the chair of the Woodlands River Watershed Environmental Organization. And we built our trail back in 2005. So that's when the Bluff Wilderness Hiking Trail opened up. It's towards the southern shore of Halifax on the Chebucto Peninsula. And it is has been described as breathtaking. It's a beautiful trail. It has varied ecologies and environments. It won one of the 8 best urban escapes in Canada in 2008 given by Explorer magazine. And it was basically created in order to convince the province to create a wilderness protection area on the Chebucto Peninsula. And that protection occurred in 2011 with the Five Bridge Lakes Wilderness Area. So I just wanted to talk about stewardship as we have conceptualized it and how it impacts wilderness, but also how it can impact active transportation routes and active transportation undertakings. So stewardship is about both preserving the physical space, so the wilderness, the actual infrastructure that exists that we use as human beings, but it is also about educating people and users on the proper use and etiquette of trails or whatever infrastructure or areas that they're accessing. It is about preserving wilderness and as well, and the preservation of wilderness is good news for biodiversity, for carbon sequestration, for combating climate change, and it's also good for people, for their mental and physical well-being, as we've discovered during the pandemic, where on my trail, we've seen increased usage of these outdoor spaces. And when we created the trail into some pristine wilderness areas that included endangered mainland Nova Scotia moose, we harmed that wilderness. We harmed that area by creating the trail into it. And we created the trail into it in order to get people to fall in love with it so that they would want to protect it from development. And there was proposed golf courses and stuff like that. And we did that, but through our use, and I think this is a general state of humanity, through our consumption, through our survival in this world, we need to kind of destroy things and consume things in order for our society to grow. And it seems like that is something that we do kind of accept. And the ideas behind stewardship is to try to minimize that maybe destructive streak in us. And by creating the trail, we created this kind of paradox where, we did get the movement and the support for wilderness protection, but through the means to achieve that, we're actually impacting the trail. And for those of you that maybe just want me to kind of close that idea, so when people go on the trail, the first thing is the trail itself is kind of like a wound in the woods, and it widens over time. It destroys the surface of the land. People leave trash, they cut trees, mostly unknowingly, without any real bad intention or anything. They start fires that maybe are dangerous, that can lead to wildfires and things like this. And the trash and the damage and stuff kind of impacts the use of the next person coming along along the trail. And the ideas of stewardship, where we kind of engage the community to take on a role of protection and caring and remediation of the trail, is something that I think can be transposed to linear trails, because that go through urban centers, and there's trash on there, there's graffiti, there's things like that in terms of the physical aspects of those trails in those areas. But I think it can also be extended beyond that to addressing maybe problems between different users and how they use the trail. And it can also be transposed maybe even to on-road active transportation corridors, where etiquette and kind of care of all the users can help people use the space cooperatively as they go on. So walkers, cyclists, and those that use other means of transportation like e-bikes or the electric scooters that we see everywhere, they can all be impacted through a stewardship program that has one aspect of it as etiquette or how to use the trail. As we use and increase our use of active transportation routes, we're going to have more interactions. And myself, as part of the Halifax Regional Trails Association, I've heard the complaints of the trail organizers and trail builders about, especially in terms of the suburban active transportation routes, that the number one complaint is cyclists not signaling as they pass walkers and maybe going too fast. So sometimes just educating cyclists on the appropriate use of the trail, what speed they're allowed to do, that they have to have a bell to signal users can help with those types of conflicts. There are also many conflicts between walkers, cyclists, and equestrian users with ATVs who maybe don't follow the rules. And as part of the Halifax Regional Trails Association, there's been a lot of criticism of ATVs, but many ATV users are also very good and provide a lot of benefit to trails as well. But if they don't follow the rules, they can lead to trail degradation. They can obviously scare horses and things like that. I think also it can be extended to a degree between interaction between cars and cyclists. I think cars and cyclists in Halifax, I think some of those kind of conflicts rise quite often, where the car drivers feel that the cyclists don't follow the rules of the road, and the cyclists feel that the infrastructure, the roads and everything are built through the sole lens of car use and aren't being created for the benefit of all users. So our stewardship program that we developed at the Bluff Trail encompasses both the physical and the use aspect of the trail. We try through, not reprimand, not, enforcement, but through education and engagement and explanation of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to achieve it. We try to get the public on board. In the past, it seems that we had addressed these types of issues by establishing rules, and we certainly do need rules, by seeking to enforce them through by law enforcement or police. And we also had a provincial trail warden program, which was kind of premised on those types of ideas and ideologies of kind of correcting people's behavior. And the stewardship program is really different than that. And I've worked very closely with Mike Lancaster, who is our stewardship coordinator. And he takes a very, positive attitude. He doesn't want to have conflict or negative interactions with people. We really try to make our interactions with people and the education of them a positive event. But also what the stewardship program provides, besides, remediation. So we do kind of remediate and fix things. And we do try to educate people on proper use, like what types of fires are allowed. Please take out your trash. Don't, do graffiti, although graffiti is a bit of a special thing. But is that we do have presence on the trail through the stewardship program. You create presence on the trail to interact with people, to let people know that the community cares for this space, and that you can educate users and interact with them on all of those aspects, on the proper physical care and the proper etiquette and use of the space. Sometimes, especially from a pristine wilderness perspective, we try to exclude people from these areas, or maybe we even try to exclude certain users from access to these spaces, like the ATVs are often excluded at times, and maybe that's appropriate in some ways, but sometimes it's not appropriate. We can't exclude people. People are going to come onto the trails in any event. And And excluding people from any of this too kind of robs them of the physical and the mental benefits of having access to it. So if you shut certain wilderness areas off, then human beings, although it's great for nature and the animals, and I am a huge proponent of that where it's possible, is great, but for the human beings that live nearby, they don't get the benefit of access to that wilderness area. And it's the same with active transportation. So if we exclude some users are going to be shut off from the access and the benefit of having those active transportation and those trails and those routes open to them. And what we're suggesting, and maybe it's an old idea in a way, is that we really do need to change the culture. It can't be seen that somebody else is caring for this, somebody else will pick up that trash. You know, the city or the people that run the program will do it. It needs to really be seen as we as the community, we as users have a responsibility for this action, and that we have a responsibility to educate other users too about the appropriate ways to address this. And I'm certainly not going to get into a whole bunch of specifics, but with our Bluff Wilderness Hiking Trail Stewardship Program, we've had some really great results over the last 4 years since it was implemented. So we've kind of calculated the number of volunteer hours per year that are spent on the trail, and we average it out at about $33,000 per year. And that's at a living wage index of about $21 per hour. So over the 4 years, our volunteers have generated $130,000 of value. We've trained 110 stewards over those 4 years. And on average, for a whole year, we have 144 average days of presence on the trail that goes up and down a little bit over the years. And that presence on trail is really important. We've remediated 130 illegal fire pits, and we've engaged where we talked about stewardship, about proper use, about etiquette, to over 6,000 different users on the trail. So our stewards have engaged with that many users. So what we've done here in other action is that we've proposed a pilot program. And this one is focusing on wilderness, but I think this can be scaled up to other areas. It's fairly low cost. What we've proposed is that HRM hire a staff person, and they work with the community partners that already exist, that already want to kind of contribute and help out in these areas, and develop and train people to be stewards in certain areas or on certain routes or anything like that. But for us, we've just asked for a pilot in a wilderness area. And we presented it to the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee. And the committee is very supportive of it, and they're working towards a motion to direct staff in this regard. So I'm not seeking a motion or anything from this advisory committee. And I did note, and I think it was referred to earlier, that Sam Austin has asked staff for a report on a park stewardship program, which I think really ties in nicely with this. And then seeing the other groups and the city kind of supporting this idea of stewardship is, I think it's really great. And I think it's a great way to ensure that we protect these spaces and that we kind of help those who maybe don't understand the rules and how to use the trails effectively, but in a kind and educational and engaging way, not in a you've done wrong by doing something way. So that's the presentation. There are lots of links and stuff in the material that I sent around. And I'd be open to any questions or concerns that anybody wants to raise at this time.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. I think that's a different perspective to what many of us have on the committee, and I think that's very enlightening that you've accomplished so much on the Bluff Trail, and that you've already put in a request for a pilot program. So, as you just said, you're not actually looking for a motion from this committee, but I'm sure committee members will have questions or concerns. So let's just go through the speaking list. Alison Carlisle, any questions or concerns?
No, I think that was a really interesting presentation, but I don't have any questions right now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Peter Zimmer?
I'd just say you're on a wonderful focus. I mean, it's, in my words, I'd say you're preaching ethics. Stewardship, ethical behavior is part of what I'm convinced we need across all of our realms of active transportation. I don't think we need laws that say, oh, you can't use a scooter on a sidewalk and you can't walk in the streets if it's snowy. You know, what we need is an ethic that says, let's consider the situation that people are in openly with an extended hand, and act first in your own right, act ethically, and be prepared to explain your ethics. And you know, this is what you're doing, and I think it's a wonderful thread for us to develop across all of our organizations. I'm certainly going to take it back to the cycling coalition and say, hey, we got to keep track of how much we're actually doing and what's the value we're delivering to the city, so we can say, this is what we've contributed. This is what our members have contributed. This is what changes we've made. And we do it because we like Halifax, you know, and it's an ethical way to behave. So stewardship, I think, is a wonderful word. Thank you.
Peter.
Okay, Peter, thank you. Elizabeth Pugh, do you have a question or?
No, I don't. It was a great presentation, Paul, but no questions.
Okay, and Milena?
Stewardship all the way. I'm what's the word? Wagging my flags, flagging my wags. I'm not sure. Beautiful. Thank you. It's kindness and ethics, and let's change the culture. Sooner the better. Then we can all get along and not scream at each other on the trails.
Very good. Okay, Andrew Taylor?
Yeah, Chair.
Okay. Ashley Bowers?
No, that was great. Thanks, Paul. And I don't have any questions.
Okay, and well, for myself, yes, I can see that this is applicable across all of the active transportation and recreational trail networks that we have. It all comes down to education in the end. Carrots and sticks, with a minimum emphasis on sticks, obviously, but sometimes they're necessary. So any last comments from anyone else?
This is Milena. I do have one little comment, if I may, just take 2 minutes.
Sure.
Sure. So there was a proposal. So I sit on the board of the Friends of the Public Gardens as events coordinator, as a volunteer, and through the Cycling for All Ages, Peterzimmer. Did I get that right? Yes, I did. I think. That Northwood has acquired a bicycle. Trisha, forgive me, I'm learning how to say that word. It's something that's new to me. And when you're coming through the public gardens, if you want to do anything in there, there's usually a form to fill out. In any case, long story short, I wiggled through, and Northwood and their newly acquired Trisha, which is I like to call it an inverted tricycle. And Peter Zimmer, I think, has sent pictures previously, about a couple of months ago, that the HRM department, specifically dealing with the public gardens, has approved that Trisha, as a mobility aid, no forms required, and therefore Northwood can be bringing in all our wonderful, beautiful Northwooders, elderly people who have been locked in during COVID and who have not been able to move around, to come and enjoy the public gardens, which makes me very happy. This being said, still no bikes permitted in, but this is a mobility aid, and so the Trisha is free to go, and we have all our elderly people hopefully will be coming in and enjoying on this wonderful new form of active transportation. And I couldn't be more happier. So I thought I'd let everybody know on this team.
Very good. Thank you, Milena. Okay, and thank you, Paul, for your presentation. It was much appreciated. So that concludes our agenda for today, except to ask or to alert you to the date of the next meeting, which is scheduled for August the 19th. And I'm assuming that will go ahead unless we, for some reason, end up with no agenda. So please make a note of that date, August 19th. And the final item on the agenda today is adjournment. I would ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
Adjourn. Milena.
Okay, thank you, Milena. And no seconder is needed for that. So I declare that we are now adjourned. And thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you.
Thank you.